Time to jam with the mayor of GL with another Author's Corner.
We've done that with Randy Wainwright, whose new book is out today.
I can't believe
One
that
Deadly Eye.
his house is still not livable.
That's what he said.
After what, 2.5 years?
Did I get that correct? Is it One Deadly Eye?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Back to Mary Moriarty. I've got a number of things that dovetail together. I think among her problems is that she's not truthful. I'm being as charitable as I can when I say she's not truthful. Well, it's interesting that I got a number of emailers all addressing me on the same thing, including Bert, who writes, "This is a minor thing." Well, right away I would stop him. What he's about to tell us is not minor at all. I was at the rally for, if you will, he calls it a rally. There was a group of supporters for Ryan Londergren that Moriarty was speaking of, when she said the law enforcement supporters were hectoring the Cobb family. This would have been back in time a bit. I did not see any heckling or jeering by the crowd supporting Mr. Londergren. If that took place, it was very quiet and I did not hear it or witness it. However, the crowd who were ostensibly in support of the Cobb family and were clearly anti-law enforcement were very loud and rude and made a point of wandering about the crowd trying to get a rise out of them. That proved unsuccessful. To sum up, Moriarty wasn't just putting a spin on it. She's a liar. Okay. He's saying that. I'm going to say she's not telling the truth. And then I have, out of the blue and unconnected to others, came one from Paul Novotny on the June 3rd pod. You mentioned her comment alleging that the MPPOA opposed a bill that would block licensing of peace officers that were members of white supremacist groups. This is another lie Moriarty told. As an active law enforcement officer, an MPPOA member, and a member of the legislature at the time it was first brought forward, our argument was that it didn't go far enough. This bill was proposed for many years, and each time the GOP attempted to add all hate groups and any terrorist groups, we also attempted to expand it to members of the court system, legislators, and teachers. Those were all blocked. The full and only focus on the bill was always white cops. The MPPOA and the GOP have never opposed blocking anyone with hate in their heart from getting a badge.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
I'm glad they're shooting back, so to speak.
She's telling desperate lies. These are the words of somebody very, very desperate.
And this is also from the same fellow. Joe, I was present at the Hennepin County Courthouse when Ricky Cobb's family walked through on the way to court. They were wearing T-shirts and walking slow with their phones out, video recording the crowd. I did not hear one thing said to the Cobb family. There were numerous cameras, private and media, set up as well. If one person thought to be associated had actually taunted, I would bet it would have been on the national news before the elevator arrived.
Oh, right.
He's absolutely correct. So Mary is painting a picture of the Cobb family as extreme victims here. Extreme victims of what? A cynic might suggest that they, well, I hate to be this candid and blunt, but what they see is their payday getting mitigated, I believe.
And I'm glad you got firsthand accounts, because I remember watching that case via a stream and thinking, well, what part did I miss that I heard the family getting taunted? Because I didn't.
Are there any other news outlets in town that are doing fact checking on what Mary said yesterday?
No.
Anybody other than us?
No. Not that I'm aware of.
She did get raked over the coals pretty good, though.
By
locally.
who?
By a lot of people via
Name
social
one.
media. Well,
I don't go with Twitter.
No.
That
I'm
doesn't
saying
count.
News. Well, all right. I'm just saying.
Well, it represents the populace, Joe.
Right.
It does, to a degree, it count.
Listen to this from a guy named Mike Wisbaum. The following story happened in 2007 to my manager's son. It was a sad time for him and his family. It is basically what happened to Cobb, but this kid did not have a gun. The difference is he was white and his family recognized what their son did was wrong. They did not blame the trooper. They did not look for excuses to blame others. Headline, Minnesota trooper kills motorist during traffic stop. A state trooper shot and killed a motorist near Becker, Minnesota on Saturday after the trooper was dragged by the suspect's vehicle during a traffic stop, authorities said. The Sherburne County Sheriff's Department identified the motorist killed as 27-year-old William Krawchuk of Big Lake, Minnesota, and the Minnesota State Patrol said the trooper involved was Andrew Thielen, who was assigned to the St. Cloud District. According to the Sherburne County Sheriff's Captain Steve Duran, the incident began around 2:18 p.m. Saturday with a cell phone call reporting a possible impaired driver on US 10 in Becker, about 20 miles southeast of St. Cloud. Thielen, assisted by a sheriff's deputy, found the vehicle a few minutes later on Sherburne County Road 11, just north of Highway 10. Thielen pulled the green SUV over and approached Krawchuk, who sped off. Life is not fair, and sometimes people make stupid decisions. Regards, Mike Wisbaum. And I not only don't remember that case, I certainly don't doubt that it happened, but I would suspect that one of the reasons I don't remember it is because all of the principals presumably were Caucasian.
It was from 2007.
Right.
I'm looking at the story right now, actually.
Yeah.
Was there a great to-do and dust-up and kerfuffle and follow-up?
No, the only follow appears to be the family and neighbors talking about he had a drinking problem. Apparently, the Krawchuk fella. There's no.
It's a shame that he was lost, but it sounds like the trooper had to do what he had to do, just like Londrigan had to do what he had to do. And in the eyes of Mary Moriarty, who is so apparently, are the Mysterians full of shame, regret? And what's the word I want? Do they so
Buyer's
lament
remorse?
the behavior of their forebears that they're saddled with this psychological burden of believing that black people can do no wrong? Or are they that way only to curry political votes?
B.
Because this is ridiculous. Ricky Cobb, God bless him. I wish his life hadn't ended, but he was a career felon.
And in fact, I'm glad you
And he
mentioned
shouldn't have died because he was a career felon. As a career felon, he could not have found himself in the position he was in. I'm sorry your life ended up that way, Ricky, but that's what happened.
So did you catch any of the press conference from Ryan Londrigan's attorney?
Yes.
Did you see the video that I first saw, what would it have been, Monday,
Yes.
about Ricky looking as though he was trying to grab the gun of
Yes.
the other? So I'm going to guess what you said on Monday about this case, where these big shot lawyers from DC saw that video and said, Mary, you got no case here.
Yeah. And Mary quickly said she was withdrawing merely to beat Walls to the punch because she didn't want to risk being humiliated again.
Yeah.
And then in that act, turned it into a 45-minute petulant rant about racism.
And also brought up her
Sexuality.
and
Yeah.
Okay, I meant to say something. I think Walls is pathetic. I think he's the worst governor in the history of the state. I think he's incompetent. I don't think he's courageous. I think he's financially irresponsible. I think everything uncharitable about him that I can. But I will say this for Walls. I bet he doesn't give a bleep that Mary Moriarty is gay.
Yeah.
I bet he just doesn't give a bleep.
Do you think it would be wrong to speculate that he might have hesitated and waited as long as he did because she's lesbian?
I don't think that's an unsafe wondering. I don't
It's
think
just
that's
wild
unsafe.
speculation on my part,
Yeah.
but it's just, she's so wrong,
But
so wrong.
okay, I understand where you're coming from, Joe, but then why did he take so long to do this? Because we all know the answer to that.
Because he waited. He reads tea leaves. He has no backbone. He has nothing solid to stand on. He just goes by the day by day. And when Jamal Mitchell got shot and he read the tea leaves and he saw the way the town was reacting, he thought, well, it's really going to look stupid to pursue a case against Ryan Londrigan.
Right.
That's all that was.
Yep.
Now, the Gumption County deputy weighs in. Moriarty claimed this case was never political. Yet she did mention she campaigned on the premise to hold law enforcement accountable. But let me stop right there. You have to remember that was the focus of her desire to be Hennepin County attorney. I want a Hennepin County attorney who wishes to hold criminals accountable.
That'd be helpful.
Right?
Yeah.
She kept bringing up the need for justice in an area beset with systematic problems. Moriarty can deny all she wants that her motives were not political, but those charges were certainly ideologically based. Ideological feelings and beliefs do not constitute legal principles, and definitely not the law itself. Moriarty said her staff not only felt threatened the past few months, but were victims of actual threats. That's another area in which she could be not telling the truth.
I would like to see proof of that.
However, I did not hear her say they filed police reports regarding these threats.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get the investigation going if there were actual threats. However, I suspect there were no calls to the police as there were never any threats. Like a good lefty, she definitely worked hard to portray herself as the victim. I found it interesting how she described the troopers and officers showing up in court to support Trooper Londrigan as intimidating and a gauntlet. Why can people supporting her political viewpoint on things show up to protest and even damage property and attack cops be called supporters?
And peaceful.
But cops peacefully gathering to show support that is contrary to her position are portrayed as threatening.
Yeah.
Moriarty made a comment that private lawyers were provided to Trooper Londrigan by the Minnesota Peace and Police Officers Association, as if that was somehow unusual or even nefarious. Joe, nearly every cop in the state of Minnesota pays dues to the MPPOA. One of the primary functions of the organization is to automatically provide legal representation to cops involved in critical incidents. They provided Londrigan an attorney because Londrigan paid to be represented through his dues. Being a member of the MPPOA is essentially a legal defense insurance policy. Did he mention it? No, but I won't. But then hypocritical Mary is the one who brought in for $1 million lawyers that weren't on her staff. Mm-hmm. After 10 months, Moriarty had all kinds of suggestions on what the trooper should have done the night of the incident, including letting Cobb go. Right now, it is hard enough to get people to cooperate. If they know that through prolonged obstinance they won't go to jail, well, no one will ever go to jail. Why should they cooperate if they know you are going to give up at some point? She also made a lot of hay out of the fact that troopers did not tell Cobb he had a warrant and was under arrest. The reason they did not tell him was because he was uncooperative and not listening. They were likely concerned this uncooperative person would attempt to flee once he was told of the warrant and was going to be arrested. Unfortunately, Ricky Cobb did just what they were trying to prevent. Cobb was treated with respect and patience the entire time the troopers were dealing with him. They could not have done anything more than they did to resolve the situation. There is just so much to say, but I will wrap up here. Thanks for being a voice of reason on a daily basis. The Gumption County deputy who's active in law enforcement and always provides us good information. And from a fellow who's been in law enforcement all his life. From the Pioneer Press this morning, Governor Tim Walz, if Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty had not dropped the charges against the state trooper, his office would have intervened. What a bunch of BS. This being an important election year, would they have cared? It is obvious that the petulant little county attorney would not have dropped charges regardless of evidence. The term legal weaponization is a destructive effort being accomplished by all of the Soros-backed county attorneys and attorneys general, and they are succeeding. All we have to do is look at Moriarty and Ellison. Back when Ellison decided to forego seeking re-election to Congress, it was commonly known across the U.S. that those attorneys would have a far greater influence in their state and local governments for making socialist changes to the law. It has been a successful effort. Today, we suffer the results of their destructive efforts to circumvent our Constitution. I would say you don't even have to say circumvent our Constitution. We have circumvented the basic understanding that most Americans have of the word right and wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so it goes, Joe. They are called Democrats, a.k.a. socialists. It has been the goal, the successful goal here and in other blue states. I wonder how many of the Democrat delegates were wearing tinfoil hats in Duluth at their convention. That's from Sanibel. It's an amazing thing to watch the behavior of Mary, who for 45 minutes desperately wants us to believe that Cobb was a victim of racism.
Yep.
Of racist white cops. And now Cobb's family is saying they're feeling betrayed after charges were dropped.
Be fun to talk to a few Hennepin County voters that voted for her and see if their opinion has changed on her. She's essentially doing what she promised.
Yep. And as a result, your city is much less safer. This is the way we live, Walls. This is the way we live. And I'm sorry for the Cobb family. I'm sorry your son chose a life of criminal behavior. And I'm sorry the road he was on led him to exactly where it concluded. But you have no ability to see that. You have been provided enough Kool-Aid to drink by Mysterians that you actually believe that somehow you've been victimized. You have not